Hey guys, Ariza here from Perth Canine Craft, also trading as Ubuntu support. So just to remind you, this is a video in a series where I'm teaching you about the public access test and what to expect. Anywho, so today we're going to talk about some distractions, and we're going to talk about people and dog distractions, because that's really important. Now, as stated in the previous videos, it is constantly said in the public access test that your dog must display relaxed and neutral behavior towards dogs and people. And all that means is they don't find them scary or exciting. By the way, I've just got some notes here so I don't lose my train of thought. Now, as an assistance dog, you want to look at temperament, okay? So your dog's temperament. Some dogs are what we call dog affiliated, meaning they will always prefer the company of other dogs over people. These dogs really don't make the best assistance dogs because the poor dog always has to have impulse control when there's other dogs, and that can become a stacking of stress that later on they become distressed, and they hate working. I had a dog that I was training named Daryl in 2019, and after a couple of months I started noticing that he was too stressed when we were out in public because he had to constantly withhold that seeking interaction, and that wasn't good for him. So I decided to rehome him, and he's with a new family and he loves it. The second thing is some dogs can be what we call human affiliated. But there are two subcategories of that. The one is they can either just love to get a pat from anyone. This is usually a bit of a problem, makes it a little bit harder to have it as an assistance dog. But the other one that's really good is they're kind of aloof with strangers, but they love to please their person. So a single handler kind of dog. They make really good assistance dogs. The dogs that love to get patted by anyone usually make really good therapy dogs. Now, they're not the same. So anyone recommending a person to get a dog, if they say get a therapy dog, that's not correct. But if anyone wants me to make a video on what it is, what is the difference or whatever, just give me a couple of nudges and I'll see when I can do that. Now, the second thing is when I look at temperament, there's usually three components that I look at. And I used to do this back in South Africa where I was looking for the patterns that the dogs would display, the puppies, and then I could adequately, give a bit more of an accurate estimation. It's always a guesstimation. So threshold, drive, and nerves. It's essentially what I look at. But let's discuss each of that real quick. So threshold. Threshold is the level at which the dog is stimulated. So some dogs are really easily stimulated by one thing, but not as easily stimulated by the other. And you need to get to know your dog. And then you need to think about, is whatever they're getting stimulated with easily or hard, is it going to be a hindrance or a help for you to pass the public access test and, provide whatever it is you need for your needs. The best dogs I would say, is easily stimulated by their handlers' needs that change, and the changes and obstacles so they can help their handlers, but they're not easily stimulated by, let's say, environmental sounds and people and dogs. Okay, so they're kind of it's not really exciting or scary. The next one is drive, and the way I define drive, because there's many definitions, or some people don't actually know what they mean when they say that, is the level of intensity a dog exhibits for a goal, a resource, or an activity. Okay, so you've got to get to know your dog. So it's fairly simple. I heard this saying once where someone said, you don't really realize how strong a horse is until your goal and the horse's goals are opposite ends. And the further away it is, the more conflict there'll be. Now, for dogs, I would say it's about persistence. So if you have a handler and a dog, and both the handler and the dog's needs and goals are really close together, we would usually say that the dog's very committed, and wants to please us and all this sort of stuff. And we really like that. But when we've got a dog and a handler whose goals are further and further apart, that's usually when I get my dog is stubborn comment. So I hope you get the picture. So there's a couple of ways that your dog, can, when you're choosing a dog, that what you can be looking for. So one thing is you can choose a dog with the drives that would meet your needs. So this is where breeds come into play. When they were functionally bred, they were a lot easier, to see what they do. Because you want, so for example, if you need a dog that's going to do a lot of retrieval tasks, you're generally going to start with breeds that love to retrieve, because that's just going to make your job a lot easier. So if you're talking to someone who's breeding a dog that's not a retrieval based dog, you need to ask them, like, how does your dogs go with retrieving? Like, there are a lot of dogs that don't like fetch. And then you need to think of, the second thing is think about size. So for some people, they might need help with mobility. So they need a bigger dog, a stronger dog. So therefore a Chihuahua is not going to do it. At least I hope, that we think about that. So the question I would think about also is, if your dog's not quite as inclined to do that, the question then becomes, so for number 3 is like, you then need to teach your dog how to cooperate with you, so by the dog also getting benefited by this activity. And therefore, for example, will the dog go and retrieve things if you play tug with it every now and again? So that's the third thing. The question I always tell people is, when they're picking a dog, the question goes like this: how much are you willing to spend, so time, energy, money, therapy, sleep, whatever, to get the dog up to snuff of the standard and then maintain it? That's why your guide hearing assistants, dog organizations will actually breed and select specific dogs that make it super, super, super easy. That's why you've got such a long waiting period. I usually work with the 2 tiers or so below that, where those dogs need a bit extra. So the last one's nerves. Oh my goodness. So nerves is about their resilience, so their level of resilience, which I have talked about in depth in other videos, but I'll just remind you. And this is about when a dog gets stimulated, whether it's the positive system or the negative system, how long does it take them to recover? There are 2 facets to this. One is outside of the view of the stimulus. So if the dog gets taken away or the stimulation, that's not what we're testing. We're actually testing the second part, is like within the presence of the stimulus, can your dog recover? And for an assistance dog, it's less than 3 seconds. And that's quite quick. You can actually practice to see if your dog has the capability, and to practice it to make it a bit better. But essentially all of these will be, the potential to where you can get will be dictated by genetics. And this is where you need to have a chat with your breeder to know what it is that they're trying to breed, what kind of genetics are they trying to pass on to the future generations. One of the things I'll say is your dog must be able to work around many different types of people. And I actually got this from Dr. Ian Dunbar. So he said that your puppy must be socialized with people first, especially children and men. Now, I will tell you, it's quite a challenge if you have a dog that's not really good with dogs, but fine with people. But it's a different kind of torture if you live with a dog that loves dogs but are very difficult with people. And it's even worse if you've got a dog that doesn't like dogs or people. You can imagine. Now, again, you want your dog to not to be excited nor to be scared. The other thing is your dog must be able to work around different types of animals depending on your lifestyle. So breeds, genders, ages, sizes, whatever. And again, same thing, they shouldn't be scared or excited by it, so lots of that. But if we talk about actual problems, I think the hardest part is when the other dog or the other animal or the human actually solicits attention from your assistance dog. That's where the challenge comes in, because your assistance dog should be ignoring it. So if you're really lucky, you're around in a public area where people are quite aware of that and they won't try and distract and engage with your dog. Fortunately, people they can be really selfish, or sometimes they're just that ignorant and they just want to touch a dog. Okay, and it takes about 7 people to ruin that. So make sure they're advocating and telling them to, you know, back off or, you know, whatever. Now I do want to talk about socialization really quickly. I think there are 2 phases that you've got to go through, work through. So the first phase is exposing your dog or your puppies, you know, sight, sound, smell kind of thing, and then kind of gauging what, you know, the pattern of their responses. And then you need to think about, okay, how do I help them to become more neutral? So if the dog's more of a scaredy cat, how do I build more confidence to be okay around this thing? If my dog's overexcited, how do I teach them that actually, you know, that's not as exciting as you think? It's obviously very easy if you have a dog that's introverted versus a dog that's extroverted. Okay, so one's going to make you more work than the other. And then the second part of that is you can then work on actual interactions. So even though we don't want assistance dogs to solicit attention, they still go to the vet and they still do things with, you know, they're still a dog, so they still need to be able to have some form of social skills. And that's an extra that you'll have to work on because they're still dogs, right? They need some time off. So I look forward to sharing another video with you guys next Tuesday. So again, like, share, and comment, especially with people who don't have assistance dogs, so we can, you know, educate some people. Remember, like, the more, you know, likes, comments, and shares I get, the more motivated I become to make more content and kind of keep you guys up to date. And if you have any questions, pop them down in the comments. Remember to actually tag, hashtag, whatever, so I know that you're asking questions. And then I'll see if I can squeeze in some time to answer these questions on some videos. So have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.